Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Oh, God help us. It's time for Danny Unleashed. Sponsored by Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Go to eastonroofing.com for more.
You know, Easton also installs insulation. Signs you might need more insulation or better attic ventilation. Some problem signs could be cold upstairs, ice dams forming in your gutters, lots of icicles hanging from your gutters. Don't wait. Call Easton right now. If this sounds like some issues that you're having at your home, 913-257-5426. Find them online at eastonroofing.com. And don't forget, there are a lot of roofing materials that cannot be installed when the weather is 40 degrees or colder. Make sure you are getting the right materials right now and are approved for cold weather. Easton never installs materials that will ultimately fail. In just a couple of years, you could be replacing a roof that you already replaced. Don't do that. Call Easton Roofing today at 913-257-5426. Easton Roofing, integrity matters. Danny from DannyClinkscale.com. How are you, my friend?
Doing just fine, Soren. How was Maui?
It was, it sucks. I mean, what a disappointment. No, it's a wonderful place.
It sure is.
It is. And it's great.
Back there.
It's cool. And I'm sad. I have no plans to return, and that makes me sad, because I had this trip planned for like 21 months. And so It was always out there. I knew, okay, we're going to go there.
It's always nice to have something out there.
Yeah, we went to the basketball tournament when Syracuse played.
Right.
And so I felt obligated that my wife went to Kansas, and she doesn't even care. She doesn't even care about sports. But I'm just like,
go?
Yeah, she did. She went to a game. And my kids, my older daughter went. We went last time, and so I was like, okay. The little one wanted to go. She's old enough to get it, and she plays basketball and everything. So I was like, okay, let's go. And so taking the whole clan over there, taking them to Pearl Harbor was really cool. We did that for one day, and then went there, spent the night, got up, did Pearl Harbor, and then went over to Maui. But yeah, very cool. The basketball tournament's pretty cool. It's literally, my buddy went, and I told him it's a high school gym, and he walked in, and he looked at it. I said, well, what do you think? He goes, it's actually even smaller than I thought it was. I go, I told you it was a high school gym. He goes, I know. I just assumed it had to be more than this. So it's a cool atmosphere to see big-time college basketball being played in a little Hoosiers barn.
Right, and no bad seat.
None.
You're close to the action.
Yep.
People care.
Good teams.
Good teams, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Yep. Still having trouble getting up in the morning. I haven't quite. When I was younger, I could flip the switch and adjust faster, but I am having a harder time.
You're there long enough to where it's. If you're there for 3 or 4 days, maybe.
I don't know how. What about me is wired this way, but I've said this before. Europe, whatever time it says on the clock, that's what time it is to me.
Really?
Doesn't bother me at all. My wife will be, when we went to Maui, it was for my 50th birthday, it was a present. And, it'd be like 8, and she'd be like down for the count, because, it was like, 1 in the morning.
It was noon.
Right.
Well, if you were there during daylight savings, it'd be 1.
Right. So, first 3-4 days, I was like a single guy in Maui. It's like 8 o'clock and my wife's asleep.
Yeah, but I don't know where you were because there are different places you can be. But, where the tournament is it's called the Lahaina Civic Center.
Right.
It's a little
down the road from where I was.
Okay, so in Kanapali Beach is where a bunch of the resorts are and everything, and where the basketball team stayed and everything. And,
yeah, that's where we were.
And that but that place shuts down.
Yeah,
they'll reluctantly keep serving you drinks. I know.
It's not like people.
But,
people do stuff all day long, and a lot of times they drink all day long, so they're done. They're done. I'm not much of a day drinker, really.
Oh, yeah?
No. Because if it's like, people say, oh, I'll lay on the beach 11 o'clock and having myself a drink, and I'm like, well, then I'm in for the day. So I cannot start. But
you're a sprinter, and that sprint's going to happen at night.
Right? Yeah. I remember in Jamaica for my honeymoon, they had
the Danny World Tour sounds pretty good. We've heard Europe, Maui, Jamaica.
They had it's over a 20-year span. Let's not exaggerate.
I'm still jealous.
You don't even want to go. So what you'd be jealous?
Yeah.
You
can't afford to.
It's not that expensive to travel, really, if you save up for it.
You do have to make an effort.
Anyway, Jamaica, they had free Red Stripe at the resort, no matter what. So I think I was the last person each day who had a Red Stripe on the whole island. Now, once I had a Red Stripe, there were multiple Red Stripes were going to go down, but I have never had a Red Stripe since. Because the Red Stripes were free, so that's all I drank. I got a little tired of it.
I am confident I was not the last guy to have a Corona in Maui. There was never any accusation of that. That's for sure. So
no, I'd maybe 3 o'clock, But before that, I can lay on the beach and be nice and relaxed and have a wonderful time without a cocktail in my hand.
Well, good for you.
But it's going to happen. I mean,
it's inevitable. It's just
right.
when.
It's just when.
Okay.
Right. It's
good
not,
to know.
It's not if. It's when.
I'll keep that in mind. Should I
travel with you?
Should I be
Go
on
to
the beach
Maui
with you? Yes, I'll make sure to not wait till 3 before
Sounds
I
like
say,
a long shot to me occurring, but that's all right.
Just for normal human reasons,
right? Not that we couldn't coexist. It just doesn't.
Oh, look who's here, honey! Danny
in Maui. Or Jamaica.
Yeah, or wherever. Or Europe.
Or right, the French Riviera.
I will tell you, I've never been to Europe. I'd really like to go. When I was younger, when I was into my 20s, I had no interest. I was like, let's just go to the beach and, I got to know, what do I walk around and look at clocks? I mean, what the hell? Now I'm like, oh, God, I'd love to go see that. Oh, that'd be great. Like when you were over in Spain and calling us last year, I was just like, oh, God, that sounds awesome.
It's, yeah, everybody should do it. I haven't gone that often. My daughter went to school there, so that added a couple of nice trips. London's fantastic. South of France is fantastic. Barcelona was great, and Venice. Those are about and Paris. Those are about the only places I've been.
I heard they're real similar to Independence. That's what Curtis says.
Yeah, it's, especially right there on 24 Highway.
23rd and Sterling area.
39th and Nolan's a lot like Venice.
No, not so much.
All right.
Yeah, let's stop world touring and sports tour.
Danny's world tour comes to an end here. The MU head coach search.
Interesting. I was reading some stuff today, and this Post-Dispatch did this article about this 34-year-old guy who's the coach of Charlotte.
Yep.
Who's kind of popped in.
Halsey? Is that what it is?
His name is Will Healy.
Healy. Thank you.
And there's a video, if you go to this story, when they clinched a bowl bid, which they did this year, the guy organizes this thing for wins after the game, and it's called Club Lit in the locker room. And they dance and everything, and he does too. So there's video of this dude dancing with a bull head on and no shirt, and people surfing in the locker room. But he's supposed to be a really bright mind. People react well to him. Innovative, charismatic. The future is one of the quotes here. I mean, he's never played, coached Power 5 football. It's all been at lower levels, but he's considered maybe an up-and-comer. And it just occurs to me that would that make the fan base happy if they took a flyer on a young guy? It might be that he might be the next, big thing, but I think they probably, don't you think they're going to go for somebody more proven?
I think the easiest thing to do is to go, well, I mean, I don't know how easy it is to pry money away from guys, but to go get your money people to pony up and go get the best proven commodity out there.
Yeah, because I think you just took a bit of a flyer in your previous hire. It was a Mizzou man, but it was a guy who had precious little high-level experience. He'd only been a short-term defensive coordinator and certainly not a head coach, and it didn't work to a degree. I mean, he was hardly a disaster, but I think it was the right move. I don't think it's unequivocal. I'll listen to somebody say that he didn't get a proper chance, but he kind of got fired sort of the way that Mark Mangino did. He was having a good run going, and then he had a season that just went absolutely horrifically sideways.
That's a pretty good comparison.
And that was the end.
Well, who was the Lou Perkins? I mean, is that just different AD? Lou Perkins was the different AD.
Right.
He didn't have the success that Mark Mangino had.
Mangino was, had
right.
a season much better than
And then either whether they were
drummed
up or not.
If there were an orange bowl on Barry Odom's resume, he would not have been gone.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
But I do agree that,
it was not, but it was also
at 5-1, they were talking.
It was also a 10-loss season on Mangino. That was the first year, though. He took over a worse situation than Odom inherited.
Oh, absolutely. But at 5-1, there was, they were talking about winning the conference.
Yeah,
sure. Oh, and
it was like, geez, Georgia or Florida, who's easier to beat? And by the time they got to those games, it was like, can they stay with them for a quarter?
And it wasn't. It was who they lost to as much as the fact that they lost.
Yes.
You can't go out and lose to Vanderbilt and Kentucky. Now, Kentucky's a pretty decent program, but that's sort of supposed to be a measuring stick of sorts, that you've got to be better than the likes of Kentucky. And Vanderbilt's just inexcusable, especially when both games were just complete offensive no-shows and boring football. That was the problem, too, in the losses, is they couldn't score. So it was not only losing, it was boring losing. So, and I didn't see the real upside. That was really what it came down to me when I was, signing off on this and saying, I think this is the thing they should do, is that I could have seen him as a survivor coach, 2 out of 3 years, make a bowl game, top end, maybe 8 wins. But I didn't see much better than that. And that's not really what you're in it for.
Did he serve a purpose? Was at the end of the day what we're going to – and he was not a disaster. I want to be clear.
Right.
Just like
Absolutely.
Gunther Cunningham was not a disaster.
Right.
He was 16-16 as a head coach. But you think back, it's like, oh, God, how do they ever think that could work, right? Is how people act around Gunther Cunningham. And really, his resume said he deserved another shot at 16-16.
Right. It was
worst
just
guys have been rehired.
It was just that the Chiefs had come off a long run of excellent football.
Right. And the general manager wanted somebody else all along.
Right.
He wanted Dick Vermeil.
And his guy was there, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then his guy was there. So I want to be clear. He was in no means a disaster, but I think it's entirely possible. Mack Rhodes, did he hire Matt Rule?
I don't know.
At Baylor? I can't remember when he left.
Because
Conzo Martin was hired by Stirk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Conzo's going into his third year.
I was at a press conference where they announced him as the Baylor coach because it was a Big 12.
July 2016 was when Mack Rhodes started at Baylor. Let's see when.
7-16. All right. See when he was hired.
December 6th, 2016. Yeah. So he hired Matt Rule.
Matt Rule. So he
home run
knew a coach there.
Right.
Barry Odom. Is it a crapshoot? I think Barry Odom, I guess the point I was getting to, I got sidetracked there. The point I was getting to was, did Barry Odom serve the purpose that nobody of any stature, not quality, good or bad, just stature. You weren't going to get anyone of stature anyway with all the chaos that was going on with the boycott and everything at Missouri. That the best they could really do was just try to keep the train rolling. And Mack Rhodes, this actually should be, when at the end of the day, he was 25 and what did he end up being? 30?
25 and 25.
Yeah, exactly.
Barry Odom?
Yeah, 25 and 25. So at the end of the day, he's 25 and 25. And how did he have?
I think he was 26 and 26.
He has to be more than that.
26 and 26.
26? Okay.
Anyway, I know.
No, 2 bowl games, probably.
Yeah.
I know he was 500.
Right.
I was no
48 regular season games and 2 bowl games.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, you could actually look at it and say, well, Mack Rhodes did a pretty good job because nobody else was going to take it. And he hired a guy to stand watch on the program and go 500 and go to 2 bowls. Maybe a third. At 6-6, they're eligible.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a third bowl game.
Well, they can't go, but.
Well, that's true. That's right. So only 2. But be bowl eligible,
right, bowl eligible
for a third time.
Yes.
That's not bad.
No, it's not
for where
horrendous.
they were in. And now it's time to just say, okay, that was what it was. But now everything's open.
Sure.
And the bowl ban's been served now. There will be some other restrictions and whatnot, but it's an SEC school. The thing that will terrify me if I'm a Missouri fan is if you hear that they hire a guy for $800,000. Like the guy you're talking about seems to me like he there is nothing on his resume that says he's ready for an SEC job.
You're not going to pay him $800,000 because you just don't do that in the SEC. But I get your point. If they hire him for $2 million, that would probably be the lowest because Barry Odom was $3 million.
No, I could see 1.7 or 1.8. I could see 1.7 or 1.8. Let's.
If they do that, then I think that is a red flag.
Not to say you couldn't get it right, and 2 years later be giving him 3.5 because he's the new hot commodity after 2 real good years.
Season.
Yeah, but my fear when I see Will Healy is, well, they're going cheap.
Yeah, it doesn't strike me that you would want to do that.
How are they able to, when they want to go take a stadium that was serviceable, and they want to add this fancy end zone to cut the seats but add more high-priced seating, right, which is the way to go with stadiums. How is it, though, they have no problem getting guys to run in and give them money to do that, but they can't ever seemingly get enough money to go hire a big gun coach?
Maybe the big gun coach won't come, and they haven't been tested in that regard. For instance, I saw a breakdown the other day from Blair Kirchhoff, and as he went point by point, it became evident that the Arkansas job is probably a better job.
Why? I had this question asked to me of intern actually, who's a Mizzou guy. How could you say Arkansas is better? I'm like, well, they won a national title.
They will pay a little bit more. A
little bit or a lot? Brett Bielema was making a lot more.
Right. They'll pay more. They just did their infrastructure upgrade was $125 million. Mizzou's was $96 million. Just stuff like that. It's just a little step up. It is a more prestigious program. There's no question about that. I don't over time, historically.
Yes.
No doubt about that. But Mizzou has the advantage of better recent success. That's their trump card, I guess, that, hey, it's a little easier, and they play in the SEC East rather than the SEC West.
Is that a benefit?
Yeah, I think it is if you're a coach and looking to, say, where am I more likely to survive, bottom line. I mean, people like to keep their job. If you're, you can say, well, the SEC West, we go out and win that, we're in the playoffs, which in all likelihood is true. But also, you can get just meat grindered to death there. I mean, how good was Auburn this year? And they lost 3 football games. I mean,
because they were all to the top teams in the East and West. They had to play all the top teams.
Right. Yeah. So you get a schedule like that. That's hard.
And they went 9-3.
Yeah. I mean, it was great work.
Is
nowhere near the playoff though.
Is Alabama on the decline?
Yeah, I don't.
Hammered by Clemson. Now not going to make it.
I'll wait another. When you've got somebody, unless Nick Saban decides he's had enough.
I won't wait. I will take the odds, and the odds say that they are. His run at the top has been longer than anybody in the last 30 years. Pete Carroll was supposedly had it up and running. He didn't have the kind of success that Saban did. You're just not supposed to be able to do that.
Right.
I will tell you that the math, everyone says, well, they do it just off Alabama. But if you take all the other schools, you're not supposed to be able to sustain it as long as they have. I think there's a decent chance they are on the decline.
I think it's easier to – I don't disagree that you can take that side and maybe have good luck with it because they're not playing in the ACC. It would be hard for Dabo and Clemson to go in the tank right now or start because, the ACC is so bad. The SEC has, programs that now – I mean, Georgia has really hit the elite level. And – the other ones in the West, they just won't accept. I mean, Barry Odom would have been gone after 2 years probably in an SEC West. I mean, Ole Miss just fired their coach, and he apparently the dude was actually in a recruit's home when he found out that he was fired. Matt Luke. But one narrative we've seen in the SEC that is interesting though that a lot of the programs have. Where it hasn't worked, hired lower-level head coaches that were considered kind of hot shots, and it just hasn't worked out. And we'll see if Missouri does that or whether they're going to try to make a home run hire if they can, if it's possible.
And who would be a home run hire?
Matt Campbell probably would come to
Why
mind.
would you leave Iowa State? For
I
Missouri?
wouldn't, because I think that
And he just signed through
signed
25.
beloved.
So.
He's got a $6 million
Let's not
buyout.
even
It's
wait.
probably
Let's not even-
probably moot.
How about Mike Leach?
I think it would be fun, but he's been okay at Washington State. He's been good.
He
He's
won
been good.
11 games last year.
It's good for Washington
He's
State.
won 8 or more games in 4 of the last 5 years.
Right, but I mean,
8, 9. I think he went 8, 9, 8, 11.
right.
Then
he's-
this year's 6 and 6.
9, 8, 9, 11, even better.
I'm sorry, 9, 8, 9, 11, and then this year's 6.
I'm not saying he hasn't done a good job,
At
but
Washington State,
At Washington State, do you want to take
which
on?
is the old, not the now after Bill Snyder, the old Kansas State of the Pac-12.
Oh, right. I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere, and
It wasn't as low as K-State was because it had been to a Rose Bowl with.
yeah, they've had occasional
with Mike
success
Price.
actually with Washington State. He's a little older now.
58.
Yeah, I don't. I guess I would consider it a triple,
Okay.
not a home run.
All right.
I think a home run would be like
But Matt Campbell
getting
in his
Urban Meyer.
and his 8 and
Right.
7 Matt Campbell in his 8 and 7 wins the last 2 years at Iowa State is a home run. And Mike Leach is
well because I think
11
he's,
at
I-
A&M,
I think he's
or at
younger,
Tech.
and I think that Iowa State still is a pretty difficult job.
let me point something out to Missouri people.
Urban Meyer, that would be a home run hire.
Okay,
That's
yes.
a home run
Yes.
hire.
Let me
That's
point
a
something
grand
out
slam.
to Missouri people, but also to Kansas and Kansas State people. You're not, except for Kansas basketball, no football or basketball program at any one of those 3 schools is anyone you need to even be considering how old they are.
True about that. Yes, I
The
agree.
likelihood
And I thought
that
Leach
any
was a little
coach
older.
you hire is going to be there for more than 5 or 6
Well,
or
that's
7
not even
years.
why. That's not why I'm thinking about it.
I know, but it's a common point.
Right.
And everybody, well, he's too old. Guys like 56. Like, what do you like Missouri in basketball? Like they were trying to refine, like Quinn Snyder's because they needed Norm. They needed a 30-year commitment from a guy. Right. Like just win for 5 or 6 years. You're going to have to hire another coach. And if you don't, you got lucky.
Right, because coaches actually will leave on their own.
That's
now.
right, because if they're any good at those schools, they will go.
But
Now,
also
Chris
sometimes
Kleiman
they
with
just
Gene
think-
Taylor might have a home, and we can talk about them in a minute. Let's take a break and do that.
Right.
Let's take a break. Otherwise, we'll go for 40 minutes. We'll take a break, come back. We'll talk about KU, K-State, coaching, that kind of thing next with Danny Klingscale.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, you know, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is Where Integrity Matters. Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Russell Wilson now has the best winning percentage among quarterbacks with at least 10 Monday night starts. Whose record did he break? He was tied with this gentleman at 8-2. He is now 9-2.
He was probably on too much to have a great record. I was thinking Brett Favre popped into my head.
They have the most wins, but people thought like the big names Manning and Brady. So they're on so many times. It's hard to be 800
Wait,
when you're
best
on.
win percentage?
Best win percentage on Monday night among quarterbacks with at least 10 starts.
Let's see, because didn't we cover Kaepernick at 5-0 already?
We did.
But seemed to be-
Five.
At least
5
10.
is less than 10.
I know, but just it seems like you've squeezed everything you can out of Monday Night Football here.
Okay.
Let's see. Somebody who hasn't been on that much or is young. Nothing's really jumping into my brain. I'll say that.
Aaron Rodgers.
Nope. Wore the number 12, though.
Oh, Luck.
Randall Cunningham.
Yeah, you nailed it, Danny.
Wow.
8-2.
They look a lot alike.
The others, Ben Roethlisberger, 14-4. Ken Stabler, 11-3-1. Steve Young, 16-5, rounding out the top 5.
What were we playing for there?
Playing for the delicious Jazz Louisiana Kitchen.
So that sheet that's irrelevant.
Yeah, we flipped him.
Okay.
He inadvertently flipped him, so we got back on track
Okay.
at 4.
We did. Okay. I don't know what to write down now. We have a script. We could stick to it. You know, let's make it easier for me.
Why?
Great Cajun food from Jazz, though. No matter where it was or wasn't going to be, it's great Cajun food at Jazz at all locations. Independence, the original by the Med Center, and, of course, out by the racetrack. Great place whether you're taking your family for a great dinner or just going down for maybe a little happy hour action. That is fantastic as well. Got a group of friends. We always meet at the Jazz. Down by the Med Center, just a great place to get together with friends, have some apps, or, like I said, dinner. Best Cajun food anywhere. It's at Jazz. Talking to Danny Clinkscale here in the program. It is Danny Unleashed.
Yes, indeed. I'm unleashed. Unleashed, unhinged.
Are you?
Yeah.
It's good to know. It's good to know.
Yeah, you can go to DannyClinkskill.com anytime and find unhinged material.
That's right. And you'll find Easton Roofing there as they sponsor both this segment and DannyClinkskill.com. Integrity matters at Easton Roofing. You can find them online at eastonroofing.com. Commercial and residential roofing, project manager on every site. Happy to do repairs, I know, because they repaired my roof. Thank you to Joe and the crew at Easton Roofing. Danny, let's so KU, K-State. I gave grades. What was the thought that I had that we doubled back from? Because I knew it was going to take too long.
We were about to divert to Chris Kleiman and K-State.
Right.
I believe. Yeah.
I can't remember what the exact subject was.
We were on Matt Campbell and Iowa State, and
right.
That's what was.
By the way, is Matt Campbell a rock star? Because they're paying him like he is. They're extending him like he is.
I still will think he is, and
I tend to think so
unless
too.
he does this again next year, because he still will have the quarterback. It'll be another year for him to have his guys in there. He looks and acts the part. So yeah, I'll still say he's
is
rock-star-ish.
looking the part a big part of it.
Well, I think it's a big part of making you a rock star. I mean, it would be hard for Chris Kleiman to be a rock star, for instance. He looks like a down meat and potatoes football coach. That's what he looks like.
Really? He's not just like a good-looking, slick guy, wears his ball cap and a fashionable style. I love that he bends the brim, by the way, and hasn't gone flat brim. Yeah. You guys that wear the flat brim, hey, you're cool. Cooler than me. But just as a fat-ass old guy, I'm bending the brim. Right? I'm a bend-the-brim guy till I die.
The flat brim sort of, kind of didn't completely
take over.
Like total flat brim. Like baseball. When some guys were coming in and they were flat brim, I'm like, it just looks dumb. I mean,
it does to you because you're an old fart.
No, I think flat brim is made for wearing your hat backwards.
I think if you're keeping the sticker on, I get what the guys are doing, where they kind of have it propped back on their head and up. I agree. Playing baseball, where you're trying to keep it on your head while running,
right?
It didn't work for me, but I got the look. It was different. You know what it was? It's not your hat, fat ass. It's my hat. That's what it was. Right. Because my hat has the bend. Right. I like the bend. The flip. And so I want to be different than my dad or my dad's generation.
Agreed.
So we're going flat. I get that. I get that.
The flip side is the one that's it's bent so much it's almost a circle. You're like, that isn't even a brim anymore.
I'm closer to that than I am the flat, though, I'll tell you.
But it didn't completely. It looked like it was going to dominate.
Yeah,
it never quite dominated.
Yeah,
and when it's full on flat and you're trying to wear it like a ball cap in a baseball game, there's a certain Dudley Do-Right factor out there.
there's some what they call dad hat. There's a little dad hat look to it.
No doubt.
Too high on the head.
Yeah. So it's just funny that some things that are just completely dorky in one period of time become ultra cool. You can walk downtown in
high water pants.
Water pants. I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
You can walk downtown Kansas City, see a 28-year-old young corporate executive, and he's got pants that are 4 inches.
He's waiting for the flood.
And he also, they want to show off the fancy socks.
Right.
And
Socks
such.
are a big thing now.
But
Yeah.
you did that 20 years ago, people would be pointing at you and calling you a dork and saying, hey, high water pants, what's going on?
With their tight rolled acid wash jeans and their Reebok
right.
pump shoes.
They wore
and-
stupid stuff then, too.
And it'll come around again, and then 30 years from now, high water pants will come back. And
I'm keeping my acid wash jeans. I'm just keeping those.
You're just waiting on it?
I'll
Everybody
never be
should
able to
keep-
wear them again.
I was going to say, like, what do you fit one leg in?
I think the only thing that may not come back, and everything seems to, like when my daughters were high school age, they were wearing clothes that looked like the girls that I went to high school with.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's the one thing when
okay.
people talked about the future, they overestimated what we were wearing and underestimated the technology. We're basically wearing the same stuff we wore in the 60s.
I think the only thing maybe that won't come back is Zubaz pants.
Yeah, those probably won't come back.
I don't know if they're ever, I don't know if they're ever going to come around.
I bet they will.
I bet they
No,
will.
I don't.
Some
think-
version of them they
Yep.
will. Sure they will.
I don't know.
It all
I don't
does.
know.
It all does.
All right. Chris
All right.
Kleiman, fabulous job.
Chris Kleiman, what for 1 year in, and listen, year one, and look, 3 years from now we might be being, well, Chris Kleiman did everything just to win some games in that first year, and he should have been building the foundation. Maybe the narrative will be totally different. But just for the first year, letter grades for Kleiman and Miles.
I'm going solid B plus for Kleiman, and I might almost
like
lean
A minus.
to A minus, but I'll just, I think A minus or A is reserved for maybe another win or two. Win the bowl game, I might tip to A minus then. They won games. It was almost as if
A win against Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, I mean, and then it includes the season. That win against Iowa State was a big deal.
I agree. I said that to my buddy on vacation. I'm like, this is big in a lot of levels. This is really
They won
big.
their last two games as underdogs on the season. If you didn't even know, you would, and you saw the way that they won games this year, you would have thought they hired Sean Snyder as the head coach. They had 4 kickoff returns for touchdowns, all of them super important. It wasn't like they were in 20, it was 28-0 and a guy took it to the house. Leading off a game at key moments when the other team, obviously when the other team had just scored because it's a kickoff return, but to take command of the game seemingly, and run game outgained, I think, in 3 or 4, at least 3, maybe 4 of their wins. In the hidden yardage of K-State, that's always it's almost like either Bill Snyder stayed or Sean Snyder got the job. And I don't think while being himself seemingly, I don't think he was trying to replicate any of that. He likes to run the football. They won a game the other day easily against Iowa State, and their quarterback was bad. Now, it was a terrible day to throw the football, but
Special teams seem to be a holdover.
oh, sure. Absolutely. They were fantastic. I mean, what are you, as a coaching staff, what's job one when you go into a game against K-State? Let's not let them take a kickoff return to the house.
3 of the
Still
last
do
4
it.
games? Yeah.
It's like magic.
Yeah.
And usually they're the same type of thing, like you or I, that's a little ridiculous. We'd get run down. But any standard issue kickoff returner could score on most of their kickoff returns. They go for touchdowns. It's like the C opens up, the guy runs through it, he goes all the way, it's perfectly blocked. They don't commit a penalty like the NFL teams do on every return.
No kidding.
So,
I think he's been fantastic. And what I think also, and again, the Jeremy Crabtree's the best, but all those guys that I completely respect the guys who try to grade the recruiting because it's such a huge beast to try to get your arms around. And the returns on that are better than they ever were during Bill Snyder. Right. And so it's not just the success on the field, the apparent success recruiting as well leads you to believe that he's going to feed this beast. And you can only assume that the players that he gets will better fit what he wants to do than what he inherited.
Right.
And so if he's recruiting well and he's winning, all signs point to
I agree.
a really good program.
I think And that's bad news for Les Miles in Kansas.
Yes.
It's hard for both programs to be winning at the same time.
Les Miles almost beating Texas and almost beating Iowa State. That's not good news for K-State either, to be clear.
No, it isn't.
But the way
they concluded that, they really showed some spunk against Iowa State. And if they had half showed the game against Baylor, I think the game against Baylor really changed the thought of the season kind of substantially. Because if you want to paint it negatively, you can say they were one brain-dead moron football play away from being winless in the Big 12 again. Now, if you're on Team Miles, you can say, hey, we had some great offensive days. We beat Boston College. We almost beat Texas. So you can paint it that way. But just to the way the season concluded when hopes were highest.
What was the play? I'm drawing a blank on the play.
The kickoff. The blocked
field
goal.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The guy tried to lateral.
They lateraled it. Or maybe the worst play in the history of college football, to be honest. Now, if you're on Team Miles as well, you could say, well, the game was going to overtime anyway. They could have won. But from the point, if you made the grade right before the Kansas State game, I think you'd give Les Miles maybe even a solid B.
Yeah.
But with expectation high, they get run off the field by K-State.
Yep.
38-10 wasn't even
No,
resembling the way the game went. And then you did show a little bit of fight. You didn't completely go in the tank, but you had a couple bad ones too. Iowa State seemed like a positive, but then a total dud against Baylor. Completely
I go C.
Utter dud.
He went 3-9 and was more competitive along the way.
Yeah, I have to go C because C- starts to really get in the bad territory. It's his first year. It's Kansas. They got a road Power 5 win. I'll go C, but it's C leaning to C-.
Did you hear his comment? And I can't remember if it was on a coach's show or a conference call or where, but he said, he being Les Miles, said, if you can't see the improvement in this team, you don't know what you're looking at.
I think that's fair.
I agree, but the fact that he felt the need to orate
say it. Yeah, I think that you should not, if you're Les Miles, you have this accomplishment, you should just act above that type of stuff. It's
right.
It's year one. Hey, we're doing a good job, but 3 wins isn't good enough.
It puzzled me, his need for a guy who doesn't seemingly.
Yeah, this isn't year
his
3
long
and he's
pauses and. That was like, to me, that seems like, well, you had to really have this burr under your saddle that you wanted to get out there.
And this isn't year 3. You don't have to be this.
Yeah.
He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
He's going to get, there's nothing that could happen next year, I don't think, that could get him. Now, maybe he'd quit if he went winless or something and say, screw this. I've got enough money, whatever. My kids are gone off the program now, whatever. But I don't think they'd even fire him. I don't think winless might even get him fired. But so I'm C leaning, but my lean would be more toward the C- than anywhere towards C+ with my C.
All right, so I want to take a break and come back. I want to talk about the expectations for the 2 next year.
No Chiefs?
Well, you want to do Chiefs? Then real quick, tell me your expectation for this year.
For next year? I do think that Kansas has to be significantly, that 3 wins again, I don't think would be a good sign at all.
Right, okay.
I think they need to win 5 games, and if it was 4, but they lost a couple of real heartbreakers, that'd be okay. But
I think you really want to see 6 wins in bowl eligibility. You can get passed up, but I think you really want to see 6 wins.
I think you do.
Because I think you should be over the losing to the Coastal Carolinas. Look up their schedule next year, would you? You're losing to the Coastal Carolinas. That should be done. I'm sure there's a couple of those on there. You go 3-0 in non-con, and again, we're going to see what it is.
They probably have one they don't want.
But then 3-5 or 3-6 in the league, and you're at 6 wins. New Hampshire at Baylor.
That's a league game.
Great timing. The return game with Boston College at Coastal Carolina, and then the league.
Boy,
the league has at Baylor, at K-State, at West Virginia. That's 3, right? At Texas Tech and at Oklahoma, 5 roadies.
Yeah. So it does that tell you anything Can anything more tell you about the state of the Kansas program that they had to sign a home and home with Coastal Carolina?
That's at Coastal Carolina?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Brooks Stadium in Conway, South Carolina.
Wow.
All right, expectations for Chris Klieman at K-State.
I think replicating what they did this year is fine. I could see a step, back. They had a lot of seniors who played a lot this year on that team. So I think if he repeated that, that'd be good work. I see maybe a step back.
All right, get Danny's thoughts on the Chiefs and Pats next here on the program.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker of Easton Roofing. And Joe, oftentimes people will wait to replace their roof until there is a weather event. What should they know about that?
Well, Danny, the important thing to remember is if you're going to turn in a claim to your insurance company, you want to make sure that you actually have damage on your home. If you turn in a claim to your insurance company and they send an insurance adjuster out, it's going to be a claim whether they give you $1 or $10,000. So it's important to make sure that you actually have damage on your home before you turn that claim in. And all you have to do is give us a call. We'll come out, take a look, and make sure there's real damage, and we'll tell you if there's not. Maybe it's just a small repair and it's not worth a claim. So it's always smart to get somebody you trust to make sure there's damage before you turn in a claim.
Quality advice and guidance from Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
Danny Unleashed is brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Happy to do repairs. 4 straight years voted best of houses. Angie's List Super Service Award winner. Check out their reviews at Google online. No payment collected. Tell you're 100% satisfied. Credit cards, PayPal, they're accepted. Take advantage of it right now by calling Easton Roofing, 913-257-5426. They've been up on Danny's roof, up on my roof, making repairs. They do a fantastic job. Joe and the crew will be happy to take care of you the way they take care of me and my family. Easton Roofing, integrity matters.
Indeed.
Danny, what do you think about the Chiefs and Pats?
I think it's a very interesting game. I expect the Patriots to play a whole lot better than they've been playing. So if the Chiefs are one,
why?
They're at home. They play a lot better at home. I think they just are the type of team that still will have a chance to figure some things out. I think
they play a lot better at home because that's where they've played all these AFC East teams, and they've had to go to Baltimore, to Houston, to Baltimore, where they only won 16-10.
I just think they play better and look better at home, even against good teams. I'm not even necessarily talking about this year. They have limitations. There's no question about that. But I'm more talking about the fact that I think that their defense is going to be on fire in that game. And the Chiefs' offense has been a little limp the last couple of weeks. So I think it's going to be, a really tough game to win. I still think that, despite New England's struggles, I think going there and winning that game and it's an important game for the Chiefs. I mean, they're done. They're playing, 4 games to win the Super Bowl if they lose this game, and if they win it, anything's possible. They can get all the way to the 2 seed in all likelihood. They lose it, the thing that's great for the Chiefs is they won the division. So even, if Buffalo is 2 games better than them, Buffalo's still coming here. So that's a good thing for the Chiefs.
Do we start hearing about how Patrick Mahomes can't beat Tom Brady? Do we hear about Andy Reid being 2-7? He's 2-6 going into this game.
More Reid, less Mahomes, unless Mahomes goes into this game and they only put 17 on the board or something like that, and he has a game like he has the last 2 weeks, then I think you would hear it. If he plays another great game against them and they lose, I think that would be off him. Reid's going to hear it. I mean, if you're trying to measure yourself against the best, and now you've got a hot shot quarterback, and you still can't beat him.
That's the thing that's to me is he's got the quarterback. Right. Now he needs to beat Bill Belichick.
I agree completely.
Okay.
I think that he's got to prove.
Go fight Sam McDowell for me. He wants no part of that.
That's a guy I might be able to fight.
You would slay each other with your rhetoric.
Danny,
Exactly.
Always great seeing you, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
DannyClingscale.com.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.